Hello, Farmer Jason here again at Wave Fruit Farm. Today we're going to be using some of our equipment to mulch our strawberries, or as I like to say, put them to sleep. It's sort of the last thing we do with the strawberries for the season, and I'll go out to the fields and we'll explain why we do it. But right now what I want to do is just bring you in here. Behind me is the tub grinder we're going to be using for this. That's going to blow all sorts of straw out in the field. But before we could get it going, it's so cold here on this early January day that we had to plug our tractor in. So unlike cars that run off of gas and start up easily in the cold weather, the tractor does not. So we literally have to plug it in like you would a household appliance, and that heats the engine block up to get us to be able to start the engine. And so here, hopefully in about a half an hour, we can actually start the engine and get mulching. All right, we were able to get our one tractor that has the bin grinder on it started. And so now what we're gonna do is we have another tractor, our 2755, that has the forks on it. And what we're gonna try to do is start it up. We also had it plugged in and get that block warm, get the oil more liquefied so that it can turn over in these really cold temperatures. The oil gets really stiff. So we're gonna try to start it up, and then we're gonna go out and start to spread. All right, so here I am in the strawberry patch. Underneath this snow, believe it or not, is strawberries that will come up in the spring. Now, what we're doing with this process is we're trying to keep those strawberries protected from the uber cold. You might say the snow's on them, isn't that bad for them? No, snow is actually an insulator too. What we don't like to see is bare ground with the strawberries exposed to really cold, super freezing temperatures. So far, we haven't had that this year. The ground hasn't really been frozen, and it's hardly frozen even below the snow. And so right now, they're actually being protected by the snow. If it had dropped down to, say, 0 degrees and there was no snow on the ground, that's when you get the damage to strawberries. And what actually happens is there is a center part to the strawberry in there called a crown that stays, and it's where all of the new leaves and growth will come out of next season. And what actually happens is that crown will freeze, pop out of the ground, crack in half, and then it dies. And so it will actually literally kill the entire strawberry plant if that raises out and does it. So what we do is, in order to protect that from happening, we take these empty fields and we throw straw on them. My father-in-law and Fidel started yesterday doing this other field that you can see behind me. And so they already have gotten a fair amount of this field done already before I came back. My wife and I were up in upstate New York looking at some new cider presses. So hopefully we'll be able to show you some new cider presses on this also. But as you can see now, this whole field is covered in straw, and that's what we want. So as that snow melts, that straw will go down and keep the plants protected from the super cold. So what we're gonna do now is we'll get the machinery started and we'll start going at it. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna unplug the tractor. We're gonna get up in this guy and we're gonna see if we can get her started. Even with the heater being plugged in, it still can be hard to get them started when it's really cold like this. Diesel engines don't like to start. Oh, and we got lucky today. She fired right up. So now what I have to do is I'm lifting up our forks. I need to lift them all the way up because what will happen is they will dig into the ground. I'm in 4-wheel drive, and so we're gonna go around and get a bale. All right, right now what we're doing is we're gonna drive down and we're gonna put one bale in it before we go out to the fields. So my father-in-law Brooks is down there waiting in it. It's a nice snowy day here and beautiful weather for running over ground. So just bear with me as we get down here, and we're gonna try to pick up one of those bales. You can see our new buildings. This gives you a nice view of the farm too while we're in the tractors. All right, now the trick to this is gonna be getting one of these bales without knocking the other one over. So I'm in a downshift, so I can do it much slower. I've got to get my bucket, my forks up, and I'm gonna have to try to hit that spot just perfectly. All right, we got we're doing good. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up and try to put that in the bucket of the grinder. We'll shift up a little bit. We'll get up here. We gotta get it nice and high. That's perfect. I wanted to get it down in there so that way when he starts to grind, it'll grab it. And I'll show you how that's going to work here in a second. What we're going to do is grab another bale, see if we can get this last one off the ground. Again, the hard part is you can't really see what you're doing. So you've got to work at it where you're just, it's almost more by feel than it is by seeing. There we go. We got our second bale once. Now it's time to shift my gears again. We're gonna head to the field. So if any of you aren't familiar with tractors, tractors lift a lot of heavy loads. The downside too is they don't move all that fast, especially in these bad conditions. It's getting really slippery, and so we're only able to move so quickly. And so when you're working with tractors, speed is hard to achieve. You just go along, but by the same token, there's no other way we're gonna carry that heavy bale. And so that's the whole purpose of tractors. Now we're gonna get out to the field here, and we're going to show you how this machine's going to work. And again, one of the things with tractors is you got to be really careful when you cross the road because they don't move that fast. So I'm not gonna be able to go that fast across the road. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna grind up that bale before I throw this one in. All right, so this is what the big grinder is. I dumped this big bale in this. This is not your classic little square bale that you're gonna find people moving around. These bales are big, really big. And down in the bottom, there's a grinder. And what's gonna happen is this tank's gonna spin, and it's gonna use those teeth to rip off the straw and spread it out the side there and throw it out to the field. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come around here. You're gonna meet my father-in-law. So this is Brooks. So he's gonna be the one grinding for us. Brooks has run this farm for 30 some odd years. He's done it since the 1980s. And so it's not his first time doing this by any stretch of the imagination. So we're gonna hang out with him here a little bit as we start to grind. All right, so you can see how we've done some of the field. He slowed down here for a second for me to get safely off the tractor. Now what you're gonna see is you'll get to see it spinning around and what it's gonna do. So we start it up, so that way it has a chance to get going. What happens sometimes is the bale will get off of those. The bale won't be quite far enough down in. There we go. And you can see it eating the bale. You can see how it just chews down the bale as it goes around. All right, Brooks is ready for the next bale, so I'm walking back to my tractor here. We'll get started up and we'll drop this next bale in just like we did the first one, and the machine will continue pulverizing it up. It actually is easier to shred when you have a couple bales in there. Once the first one gets down far enough that you can get the second bale on, it's actually a little bit easier to grind them because of the fact that the extra weight pushes it down. And you can just see how big this bale is. They're just enormous amounts of straw. All right, let's get up in here and we'll get out and we'll dump that in for Brooks because he's waiting on me, and we need to get things done here today before the weather gets south again. It's actually supposed to get a little warmer again, and for us that's no good because then the ground will become soggy and wet again, and then we'll be out of luck again. So we got to get this last little bit done. We had a total of almost 30 bales, and this is actually the last two. And so we're doing pretty good. And then I'm going to show you how we clean up the machine once we're done. So what we're going to do is just like the first bale, we're going to come out here in the middle of the field. We're going to see if we can drop it just correctly. Sometimes it's hard. If you don't get them in there right, they'll want to get jammed. If you get them broadwise, like if it would just fall in there down now the way that it is, you wouldn't want that because it gets stuck. So what I've got to do is I've got to be a little off to the side so that when I dump it in, it's going to fall with its nose down. Let's see if it'll get down in there. Let me give it an extra little shove down. There we go. It's working. And so now you can see it started grinding. He started grinding again. That bale will work its way down in through there. And we'll finish getting it mulched here for the day and for the year. And this will keep the strawberries nice and safe. This will keep the strawberries nice and safe over the winter, as well as it makes it nicer for us to pick them in the spring because they won't have all the mud between the berry plants. The straw will stay there and sort of protect the plants from getting muddy if it rains while the strawberries are young. So very important job, and I'm glad we finally got to it. We should have done it a long time ago, but the weather did not cooperate. So this is where we're at. We're just still working on getting the last couple bales off here. I just really enjoyed this view of the tractor with a little bit of dust blowing, and you know, this is what farming's all about. Kind of a nice chilly day with some sun out and just working on our strawberries. So just sort of a classic view of watching the tractor go off into our low January sun. What we're gonna do next is once we get this all spread out, we will start working on cleaning up the machine. Just like we had to plug it in beforehand, everything takes work. It's not just the actual job itself. You have the prep work and you have the cleanup work. So what we're gonna do is we'll show you how we clean up the machine. What really happens is all of the bands that hold the straw together need removed from those big teeth. All right, the first thing we're gonna do to clean up is we just gotta get all of this straw off. Some of it's actually frozen to the machine because of the fact that it was used yesterday, and that little bit of moisture in here is just causing us some problems where everything's wanting to stick. So I may have to get my putty knife to get some of that off of there. So that's gonna be our first task, and then I'll log back on here and we will show you how we get rid of all of these. We sort of have an ingenious method for getting rid of all of these ties that held the bales together.
So what we're doing now is cleaning the machine up for the winter, and all the big square bales had baler twine on them, which is this black stuff stuck in the throat here. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to actually light the machine a little bit on fire to loosen it up, because it's wrapped around maybe 8-10 feet worth at a time. And it takes a long time to cut it all out, and so we just short-circuit it a little bit by burning them. They are made out of a little bit of hemp and plastic. So we just basically burn them off, and then that makes them only about a 2-foot ravel. And we don't care if the plastic and baler twine burns a little bit. As we're getting it ready, we just keep working through the throat, and then we'll eventually spit everything out in the field. And with the baler twine, it will biodegrade and go back to organic matter in the field. You don't want to do this on the straw, obviously, because you'll catch a straw on fire. Got a lot of snow here. We got a few corn stalks, but it's sweet corn left over, so they're not really going to burn much. The farther or the closer we get to this end, the more baler twine gets to be wrapped on it. That one has a lot of wraps on it, so we got to get it a little hotter. Finally breaks loose. This is just a torch that you would solder copper water pipes together with. Pretty quick, some of them don't.
Right now while we're doing this too, you can see the big metal fingers, if you will, that are grabbing that straw and just shooting it out the side.
Basically, they're hammers ripping it loose from the bale when the machine is all put together and the straw is in there. This was originally built for dairy farmers to put straw in their freestall barns. And we'd seen the idea and bought one of them just to throw the straw out. This gets used about 2 to 3 days a year, that's it. We have lent it to other dairy farmers that they can chop up straw or corn stalks with it in their freestall barns. The 2 different people I've lent it to actually have gone and bought their own machines to do the same thing, so they can do it all year round instead of just once or twice a year. So we get all these burned here, we're going to throw them out.
All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to kick the machine on, and it'll throw out some of those burning There we go, we got rid of a lot of the binder twine. Now we're just gonna repeat this 1 or 2 more times, and by the end we'll have a nice clean machine. And that way it goes away for the winter, the strawberries are happy for the winter, and as a whole we're We're closing out 2019 here in the beginning of 2020, and we've got everything ready, and hopefully we'll have a nice spring with good weather, and we can have lots of good strawberries, because strawberries are one of the best tasting fruits ever. All right, thank you all for watching. Make sure you remember to subscribe.